Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is Friday, April 10th, and today is a significant day on the calendar for both our Jewish friends and our Christian friends because today falls during Holy Week on the Christian calendar. It's actually Good Friday, and it falls during Passover on the Jewish calendar. So our chalice lighting today is for these holy days in which we remember these ancient and sacred stories. For Passover, which reminds us that the journey toward freedom requires courage and perseverance, we light the flame. For Easter, which reminds us that love is more powerful than fear, even the fear of death, we light the flame. This flame burns for the opportunity to be together in spirit, to remember the past, to plan for our future, and to be alive in our present. Today we're going to look at Passover briefly, and next week we will look at Easter. Passover is, as many of you know, the story of the Exodus of the Hebrew people from Egypt. The Hebrews were enslaved in Egypt by Pharaoh, and they cried out to the God of their ancestors, who heard their cry and chose Moses to be their leader, to lead them out of slavery and bondage into freedom and toward the promised land. I recently found a powerful meditation on Passover by a UU minister by the name of Reverend Kathleen Mateague. I want to share her meditation with you, and I have shortened it a little, and I have done a few tweaks to make it fit this video time. But the words and the message are hers, and I think it's a message that we need to hear right now during this time. So feel free to close your eyes if that helps you to listen, and listen with new ears as I read this meditation. When the escape from Egypt was certain, when the dangerous waters of the Reed Sea were calm again, when the Israelites could finally turn toward the future without fear that the past would snatch them back, what did they see before them? Not the promised land flowing with milk and honey, but the wide and terrifying wilderness that would claim them for 40 long, hard years of wandering. They were not carried along on a surge of vindicated faith, but stumbled forward with paralyzing doubts. And instead of enjoying sweet unity after all they'd been through, they were torn by bickering and division. They walked into relentless uncertainty and discomfort and fell asleep on the hard ground to wake feeling ashamed for dreaming of the easier life of slavery they had left behind. Each of us knows what it means to be lost in the wilderness, maybe now more than ever. The familiar has been left behind, but what we yearn for has not yet come into view. And here we are, lost in the desert. We have no way to know how long our wandering will last. These passages through the land of in-between are scary and uncomfortable, and the desert is a place we would rather barrel through as quickly as possible toward the welcoming ground of our destination. But our time in the desert is a passage of the heart, not just a physical journey of the body, and it's not in our power to speed it up. Reverend Kathleen Mateague, shared a time in her life when she visited a literal desert every year. She lived in the San Francisco area, and every spring for 5 years, She traveled with a friend to the low desert just over the California border into Arizona. They would camp there for a week in the middle of nowhere. At first, she said, especially after the damp lushness of the Bay Area, the landscape seemed absolutely barren and dead. Then her eyes would adjust, and she'd start to notice all the complicated forms of life that thrived there. The desert light drew breathtaking colors out of the rocks and shadows, and at night there were the incredible desert stars. Our inner deserts have something to offer us, too. It's hard to fight the impulse to get out of the place of passage as quickly as possible. But what strange gifts might it offer to us if we can calm ourselves enough to look? After 40 years in the desert, the Israelites in the ancient myth finally reached its end. They touched life-giving waters again and waded into the Jordan, amazed and glad. Maybe they knew, even in that moment of deep relief and readiness, that the desert wasn't accidental, and that it had opened and cleansed them in some necessary way. Maybe they understood how the wilderness had sharpened their awareness and softened their hearts, so they could at long last receive not just the gifts of the promised land, but the gifts of the desert that had brought them there. We are on a journey, and we didn't plan it. We didn't even have time for the bread to rise. But look around. We are not alone. We are on this journey together, a journey to our deeper, better selves, a journey maybe to a better world, a journey hopefully to a more promised land. May it be so, and namaste.